Turn in your packet to Dividing a Decimal by a Whole Number Practice, and we're going to go ahead and do 4 examples of how do you divide a decimal by a whole number. In the upper right-hand corner, we're going to take some very quick notes. There are 3 easy steps to dividing a decimal by a whole number. So go ahead and write these in the upper right-hand corner. Number 1, if we need to, we're going to write our problem as a division problem that looks like this, if it isn't already written as that. Step number 2, here's kind of your new step. We are going to bring our decimal point straight up. Bring our decimal point straight up. That's going to keep our place values in order. And then number 3, we're just going to divide like usual using our long division. We just need to remember to be very neat because we want to keep our place values nice and stacked. All right, so let's go ahead and start with number 1. Number 1, we have 95.2 divided by 2. Okay, well, this is not written there, so we're going to rewrite it. And I'm going to have 95.2 divided by 0.2. Notice I'm being nice and neat, and I'm kind of spacing out my numbers so they're not all crunched up. Step number 2, we're going to bring our decimal point straight up. Boink. Step number 3, let's see, I'm just going to go ahead. How many times does 2 go into 9? 4 times. 4 times 2 is 8. Subtract. I get 1. Bring down the 5. How many times does 2 go into 15? It goes in 7 times. That goes straight up the elevator. 7 times 2 is 14. Subtract. Bring down the 2. There's a little bit of a space because of that decimal, but that is okay. How many times does 2 go into 12? It goes in 6 times, straight up the elevator. 6 times 2 is 12. We subtract, and we left with 0. There are going to be times where we don't have a remainder of 0 here, and we're going to do that later. But for now, all of our dividing is going to end with a remainder of 0. Our final answer is, I'll rewrite it to make it look a little nicer, 47.6. Example number 2, 33.36 divided by 8. If I were to estimate this answer, I like to estimate just to see, give me a ballpark. I'm going to use some nice round numbers. I'm going to say 32 divided by 8 because I know 32 and 8 go together really well. My answer is going to be close to 4-ish. So I'm just going to keep that in the back of my head. I'm going to rewrite it. 33.36 divided by 8. Step number 2, bring up our decimal. Boink. Step number 3, we're going to divide like usual. How many times does 8 go into 3? None. How many times does 8 go into 33? 4 times. 4 times 8 is 32. I'm going to take out that. Bring down the 3. There's a little bit of a space, but that's okay. How many times does 8 go into 13? Once, and that's going straight above the 3. 1 times 8 is 8. Subtract. Bring down the 6. How many times does 8 go into 56? 7 times, straight up. 7 times 8 is 56. And we have a remainder of 0. So my final answer is 4.17, which is pretty close to our estimate. All right, problem number 3. Ooh, it's a little bit interesting. I have 0.625 divided by 5. Ooh, I have less than 1 divided into 5 parts. I'm going to get a pretty small number. Let's rewrite it. Even if it looks weird, we're just going to use our steps, and they're going to work out nicely. Okay, there's step 1. Bring our decimal point straight up. Step number 2. Boink. All right, now we're going to divide. How many times does 5 go into 0? None. I have 0 holes. Okay, how many times does 5 go into 6? Well, it goes in 1 time. That's going to go straight above the 6. 1 times 5 is 5. Bring down the 2. How many times does 5 go into 12? It goes in 2 times, straight up. 2 times 5 is 10. Subtract. Bring down the 5. How many times does 5 go into 25? 5 times. Bring it straight up. 5 times 5 is 25, and we are going to be left with 0 remainders. So we have 0.125. I have a number less than 1 divided into 5 equal parts. Each of those equal parts is 125 thousandths. All right, number 4, 18.06 divided by 6. Well, if I'm estimating this, 18 divided by 6 is 3. So my number is going to be 3-ish. Actually pretty close to 3. Let's go ahead and rewrite it. 18.06 divided by 6. By now you should know step number 2. Bring your decimal straight up. How many times does 6 go into 1? None. How many times does 6 go into 18? 3. 3 times 6 is 18. I have a remainder of 0. Bring down the 0. Now here could be the slightly tricky part. How many times does 6 go into 0? It goes in 0 times. We have to have that place value. It goes in 0 times. We have to put a 0 there because it's saying I have 0 tenths. I have to have a placeholder there. 0 times 6 is 0. We still have 0. Now we can bring down the 6. How many times does 6 go into 6? 1 time. 1 times 6 is 0. So our answer is 3.01, which is really pretty close to our estimate. Here is the place that most people will make a mistake if they do. They get to this point here where we had a 0, and they'll go, oh, it doesn't go in any more times. I'll bring that 6 straight up and we'll put a 1, and they will say 3.1. That is not true, not correct. So make sure you don't make that mistake. Make sure if it goes in 0 times, you tell us it goes in 0 times. And that is how you divide a decimal by a whole number.